If you grow hostas, there is one thing they need from you right now, in July. And almost every gardener gets it completely backwards. Here's the surprise. The single most important thing you can do for your hostas this month isn't to feed them more. It's to stop. Because according to the University of Minnesota Extension, fertilizing your hostas past the end of July can actually work against the plant. It pushes out tender new growth at exactly the wrong time, right when your hosta should be turning its energy towards surviving the winter ahead. So, if you've been reaching for the plant food to keep those big leaves lush through the heat, this is the video that saves your hostas. In the next few minutes, I'll walk you through the one thing to stop doing in July and the handful of simple things to do instead. Watering, mulching, and the flower decision most people get wrong. So your hostas come back even stronger next spring. Let's start with the one thing, because it's the whole reason you're here. Stop fertilizing your hostas after the end of July. That's it. It sounds almost too simple, but it matters more than almost anything else you'll do this season. And here's why. A hosta's entire year runs on a hidden clock. In spring, those tight little spears push up out of the ground and unfurl into the lush mounds we all love. Through late spring and early summer, the plant is in full growth mode. And that's the window when a little feeding actually helps. The University of Minnesota Extension recommends fertilizing hostas at most twice in a season. Once in spring as the leaves emerge, and once more before flowering. And then it gives one very specific instruction. Discontinue fertilizing after the end of July. Here's the reasoning, and once you understand it, you'll never forget it. Fertilizer, especially anything high in nitrogen, tells the plant one thing: grow. Push out soft, tender, new leaves. That's exactly what you want in May. But in August and September, your hosta needs to do the opposite. Slow down, pull energy back into its crown and roots, and harden off for dormancy. So the single most powerful thing you can do this month is to put the plant food away. If you fed your hostas earlier in the summer, you're done for the year. No more feeding until next spring. Let the plant follow its natural rhythm. This one restraint, doing less, not more, is what separates hostas that limp into next season from hostas that come back bigger and fuller than ever. Now, if you're not feeding, what should you be doing in July? The answer is water, but in a very particular way that most people get wrong. Here's the rule. Deep and infrequent beats shallow and frequent every single time. The University of Minnesota Extension is clear on this. Deeper, less frequent watering is better for hostas than light, frequent sprinkles. Think about what a quick daily splash actually does. The water only wets the top inch of soil, so the hosta's roots learn to stay shallow, chasing that surface moisture. Then one hot, dry week comes along, the surface bakes, and those shallow roots have nothing to fall back on. A deep soak does the opposite. When you water slowly and thoroughly, the moisture sinks down 6 inches or more, and the roots follow it down, building the strong, deep system that carries the plant through summer heat and drought. In practical terms, hostas want somewhere around 1 inch to 1.5 inches of water per week during the hottest part of summer, whether that comes from rain or from you. Rather than a little every day, give them 1 or 2 really thorough soakings a week. And there's one more detail that matters, especially in July. Big hosta leaves are dramatic, but they're also greedy. Those broad leaves can act like an umbrella, shedding rain right past the plant so it never reaches the roots underneath. The same is true for hostas planted under trees, where thirsty tree roots drink up the moisture first. In both cases, you have to water at the base, at the soil, and water generously. Watch the plant, and it will tell you what it needs. If you see the leaves drooping or wilting in the afternoon, or the leaf edges turning brown and crispy, that's drought stress. The plant needs a deep drink. And here's a small timing trick with a big payoff. Water in the morning rather than the evening. Morning watering lets the foliage dry out during the day. Wet leaves sitting overnight are an open invitation to the one pest that plagues hostas more than any other: And that's exactly what we're covering next. The next thing to do in July is mulch. But this is where good intentions can backfire. So let's do it right. A proper layer of organic mulch is one of the best things you can give a hosta in summer. The University of Minnesota Extension recommends organic mulches like shredded bark, shredded leaves, or pine needles, kept at a 2 to 4 inch layer. That mulch conserves the soil moisture hostas depend on, it keeps the roots cooler through heat waves, and it smothers competing weeds. But there are two details that make all the difference. First, keep the mulch away from the central crown of the plant. That's the spot where the leaves emerge from the soil. Pile mulch up against the crown, and you trap moisture right where the plant is most vulnerable. And you invite crown rot. Leave a little breathing room, a bare ring right around the base, and mulch the soil around it. Second, don't lay down a thick, fresh blanket of mulch in the middle of a July heat wave. In the peak of summer heat, a heavy new layer can trap humidity against the foliage. If your mulch has thinned out, a light top-up is fine, but the ideal time for the main mulching is earlier, as the soil warms in late spring to early summer. Now, here's the trade-off you need to know about, because it's the #1 hosta problem in July. That same moist, shady, mulched environment your hosta loves is also the exact environment that slugs love. Slugs are the classic hosta pest. They feed at night and leave those telltale irregular holes chewed through the leaves, along with shiny slime trails on the foliage and the ground. Moist, dark conditions are what they need to thrive. So how do you keep the mulch and lose the slugs? Use a coarse, shredded bark rather than a fine, soggy mulch. The rough, dry surface is hard for slugs to cross. Space your hostas so air moves between them and the leaves dry out. Water in the morning, so the foliage isn't wet all night. And if the damage is serious, an iron phosphate slug bait, sold under names like Sluggo, is widely recommended because, unlike the older metaldehyde baits, it's much safer around pets and children. One important safety note: always check the label, because older slug baits can be genuinely poisonous to dogs and to curious grandchildren. Choose the iron phosphate type and follow the directions. Here in July, your hostas are sending up their tall flower stalks, and this raises a question that quietly divides gardeners. Do you cut those flowers off or leave them? There's no single right answer, but there is a right way to think about it. And most people never actually make the choice on purpose. Here's the key fact. Hostas are grown, first and foremost, for their foliage. Those sculptural mounds of blue, green, gold, and variegated leaves. The flowers are a bonus, not the main event. The University of Minnesota Extension points out that you can trim off hosta flowers before they mature so they don't distract from the leaves. And that's the choice many gardeners make because it keeps all the focus on that beautiful foliage and keeps the plant looking tidy. But there's a real reason to leave them too. Some hosta varieties, especially the plantaginia types with their late summer blooms, are wonderfully fragrant, and their flowers are genuinely loved by bees and hummingbirds. So if you enjoy the scent, or you want to feed the pollinators visiting your yard, letting them bloom is a perfectly good decision. What you don't want to do is leave the spent browning flower stalk standing after the blooms have faded. Once a stalk is finished, cut it back down. Removing the old flower stalk keeps the plant tidy and redirects energy back into the leaves and roots, which is exactly where you want that energy going as the season turns. And one thing to leave for later, not for July: cutting the whole plant down. Those big leaves are still busy all summer and fall, gathering sunlight and feeding the crown for next year. You leave the healthy foliage completely alone until it yellows and dies back on its own, after the first hard frosts of autumn. That's when you cut a hosta down to the ground, not in the middle of summer. In July, the leaves are working for you. Let them work. One last thing before we wrap up. Walk out and look at your hosta leaves. If you see brown, scorched patches or crispy tips, your hosta is getting too much sun. The University of Minnesota Extension notes that scorched leaf surfaces are a symptom of sunscald. The spot is simply too bright. Hostas want filtered or dappled shade, and the blue-leaved varieties are the most sensitive of all, because that waxy blue coating bleaches out in strong sun. If you spot scorching now, give the plant extra water to cope through the heat, and make a note to move it to a shadier spot in fall. Never dig it up in the July heat. For now, note it, water it, plan the move for cooler weather. So, there it is, the one thing your hostas need this July, and the simple things to do around it. Put the fertilizer away for the year and let the plant follow its natural rhythm toward winter. Water deep and infrequent instead of shallow and often. Mulch the right way, with breathing room around the crown, and stay ahead of the slugs. Make a deliberate choice about those flowers, and let the healthy leaves keep working until frost. None of it is hard. Most of it, honestly, is about doing less and trusting the plant. That's the quiet secret of a great hosta. It doesn't need you to fuss over it. It just needs you to get the few important things right at the right time. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Are you going to cut your hosta flowers this year, or leave them for the bees? Drop your answer in the comments below, and don't forget to tell me your state or USDA zone, because we read and reply to every single comment. If this helped, hit subscribe and the bell so you never miss a video. We post new shade garden and low-maintenance guides every week. Thanks for spending this time in the garden with me. Until next time, keep growing.